If your problem is I'm having a heart attack, maybe make it somebody else's problem, right? Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another deep dive into the depths of my email inbox, which I've been filling over the past 3 years with YouTube Shorts and TikToks. I was like, oh, I really want to talk about that. That would be a fun thing to discuss. And then I didn't do that. So we're fixing that. I'm going to be throwing one up on the screen here. Let's go over it together.
All right, check this out. This was blown up a few days ago. So this religious guy here goes to the beach and gets upset at these teen girls for wearing bikinis.
Take young guys into consideration. They don't need to see pornography right in front of
We're not
their
coming
eyes.
up to you, bothering you. Please go away.
You're flaunting your stuff.
I'm not flaunting anything. Don't look at me.
What the hell? It's a beach. Of course that's what they're wearing. What does he expect them to dress like, some kind of beekeeper?
And if men of God don't stand up, then our society's gonna go down the drain.
You're shirtless. You're not saying shit to them.
That's a lot different.
To summarize, they appear to be on a public beach. They are presumably wearing bikinis, something they are allowed to wear. This man is upset, and he's allowed to be upset. But when you go and be upset towards other people and you make it their problem, sometimes less allowed. We'll get there. He is also maybe making this a religious issue, and I am basing that off of his statement that men of God need to, quote, stand up, end quote. Interesting. Also interesting, these ladies do in fact point out that there are shirtless men. Why isn't that a problem? And this individual goes, well, that's different. I want to hear him explain why. Unfortunately, I probably never will. And that would be a lot more fun for me to have that conversation than I imagine these individuals would have with that. I imagine this was not fun for them. But to determine how wrong this man is, we need to figure out where he is. And it turns out that his employer, which was Mighty Hand Construction, issued a statement saying, yeah, this isn't cool. He's gone. I don't know exactly what they said. That probably not that. But yeah, he was fired for this. Now, Mighty Hand Construction works in Colorado, so we can look at Colorado state law. Now, I'm not saying this man committed a crime. However, I wouldn't be shocked to learn that he did meet the elements of one, specifically harassment in the state of Colorado. Up here, we do have the jury instructions for the crime of harassment within the state of Colorado, which reads, the defendant in the state of Colorado at or about the date and place charged with intent to harass, annoy, or alarm another person, repeatedly insulted, taunted, challenged, or made communications inoffensively coarse language to another in a manner likely to provoke a violent or disorderly response, and that the defendant's conduct was not legally authorized by the affirmative defenses in instructions. There's a lot of stuff in there, but basically, was he in Colorado? It appears yes. At the date charged? No, because he wasn't charged, but that would be relevant. With intent, that's difficult because did he intend to cause them alarm because of his actions? I'm guessing no, but there is a threshold where whether or not you intend to, does a reasonable person or would a reasonable person understand that this would be alarming? Repeatedly insulted, taunted, challenged, or made communications inoffensively coarse language to another. That's also a little tricky because he didn't necessarily insult, taunt, challenge, or make coarse language communications to them. However, he is calling them pornographically dressed, essentially. He is saying that they are wrong for doing it. It is something that they are presumably uncomfortable with, and I think you could probably get that to match that. It's a bit of a stretch, but I don't believe he was charged, so maybe that's why, because it would be a bit of a stretch. The final thing we would have to establish is whether or not this was done in a manner likely to provoke a violent or disorderly response. I would say it's certainly possible. You could make that argument. If someone had been in more of a fighting mood than these women on the beach, yeah, I could definitely see this being likely to cause a bit of a tussle, which would probably be some sort of disorderly conduct in the state of Colorado. Or violent. Probably closer to violent, I think is a better option. But it's not perfect, but you could sort of squish this incident into this. But those aren't the only jury instructions for harassment, because we also have harassment for following someone around. Were these people being followed? I don't know. If they had gotten up to leave, would this man have followed them? I don't know. But if they had left and he continued to follow them, does that meet the elements of these jury instructions? Let's check. The defendant in the state of Colorado at or about the date and place charged with intent to harass, annoy, or alarm another person followed a person in or about a public place. Well, this is presumably a public beach. I suspect that would be considered a public place. And if he followed them around, we got that part. And if he intended to harass them, well, oh, the intent again. He intends to be saying these things to them. Does a reasonable person understand that these things would be annoying, alarming, harassing? Hi folks, it's Editor Blue here. I keep referring to this idea that, well, okay, whether or not this person had intent, are they acting in a way that a reasonable person would, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't think that would necessarily apply here because the knowingly or willfully standard is outlined as a separate and distinct thing in the Colorado jury instructions. So I'm going to say that that is not the same as intent under these circumstances, and we have to actually establish intent as opposed to would a reasonable person believe that this was harassment. However, if we want to find that intent, we can ask ourselves, what was this man's objective when he's saying, hey, you need to cover up, hey, you are pornographic? Was his goal to shame them into wearing different clothes? Was his goal just to convey a message like, hey, maybe think about this? And without seeing the full discussion they were having, I couldn't say for sure, but I do still think an argument could be made that his intent was to shame them into changing their ways, and at that point, that would be the intent. But I don't have to guess because this actually establishes what a public place is and what with intent means. With intent requires a person to act intentionally or with intent when his or her conscious objective is to cause the specific result prescribed by the statute defining the offense. It is immaterial to the issue of specific intent whether or not the result actually occurred. That doesn't actually help us here. We can't establish his intent was to annoy them. We can establish his intent was to talk to them in a manner that would be considered probably by a reasonable person annoying. Is that enough? I don't know. Certainly you could conduct your investigation to try and establish that. You might talk to him and be like, you understand that people are going to be upset by this. And if he goes, yeah, I do understand that, I don't care. Cool. Well, then you intend to do the thing and you knew that the thing would upset people and therefore intent maybe. As far as public place goes, we have public place means a place to which the public or a substantial number of the public has access and includes but is not limited to highways, transportation facilities, schools, places of amusement, parks, playgrounds, and the common areas of public, private buildings, facilities. I'm gonna guess this counts. So can we say for sure this man has met all the elements? No. Do I think an argument can be made either way? Yes. Yes, I do think that. But that's why lawyers exist. So they can do all of that work for us. Well, that would be a judge. Well, judges are often lawyers. It doesn't matter. But if you don't want to have to deal with the lawyers, I recommend don't approach women wearing not too many clothes to preach biblical things at them. Maybe don't do that. I feel like that's a pretty obvious answer. What do you think, Train? Thank you, Train. As long as they're wearing more than a fig leaf would cover, the problem is his and not theirs. You know what? I'll accept that. Blame the train, not me, but surely if Adam and Eve, after eating from the apple, realized that they were naked and covered themselves with, I believe, fig leaves, the train certainly seems to think so, then that should be good enough, right? So if they're wearing more than what a fig leaf would cover, and I honestly have no idea what a fig leaf would cover, I don't generally dabble in the accoutrements of the leaves of the fig tree, then his argument isn't, well, his argument was never very valid, was it? But, I don't know, just, hey, live your own life, man. It's not hurting you. And if it is hurting you, don't be there. Stop making your problems other people's problems, maybe, within reason. If your problem is I'm having a heart attack, maybe make it somebody else's problem, right? But if the issue is this, oh, there's a backside apparently. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out. Matthew 5:29. Oh, well, yeah, or leave the beach. Get to keep both your eyeballs. Just a thought. Let me know what you think in the comments section. It helps the algorithm, but I do encourage you to play nice because as some of you are finding out, I enjoy fighting in the comment section more than you do. So there's that. You can also hype the video now. That helps a lot. You can like it if you liked it, dislike it if you dislike it. You can subscribe for more nonsense like this. You can hit that bell icon to get notifications when I release more videos. I keep getting messages from people saying, oh gosh, I wasn't getting these notifications. Bell icon. Somewhere around there. I can't see it. You can. Feel free to hit it. Find out what happens. I don't know. I've never I don't think I can hit the bell icon on my own channel. It doesn't matter. So, with that out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for sticking around to the end. And until the next time, be good, stay safe.